Hello and welcome, I'm Peasant, and today we're going to be taking a look at Lightning in a Principles playthrough. So what that means is basically it's a playthrough at zero difficulty where I just explain any nice general principles that kind of come up in the course of the playthrough. So not an over-explain, I'm not going to try and explain everything, I'm going to try and just explain things that I think are going to be most useful for newer players. We'll see if I succeed in that attempt. Feel free to also, if you have any questions about this game or Spirit Island, just drop them in the comments and I do read and answer everything, I think. Well, I intend to anyway. Okay, so we are in the growth phase, and we, of course, this is our opening explore that we had. And we have a city is going to be built in here this turn, and a town's going to be built in here this turn in the build. So with Lightning, there's a bit, the main gimmick is that you can use slow powers in the fast phase with this swiftness of lightning. So for every air you have, you can use a slow power as a fast. But lightning is interesting. A lot of people don't recommend new players use lightning. I somewhat disagree, because actually, as long as you still appreciate how useful slow powers are, you're fine. Lightning is very funky though, and I'm showing you a single spirit playthrough because there's less to try and take in. But lightning is a bit weird as a single spirit. It still works, but it's actually one of the ones I struggle with most. Okay, so we've got a city going to be built in here, and then we know that this is going to slide across and we're going to have a ravage. I actually think probably I'm just going to leave this alone. Just going to leave it alone. The other thing we know is that there's going to be a town built here, and then after that is going to be a ravage. But there are 2 Dahan in here. What's going to happen is that those 2 Dahan are going to take 3 damage. One will die, one will be wounded, but the remaining one will fight back and destroy the town that's in there. So it's a very useful kind of concept. I call it a dirty ravage or a dirty counter because a blight is still placed. But it does kind of help. It's something it's something you want to think about. Lightning also hilariously does have some very, very quick wins, potentially. Incredibly quick, as in turn 2. We probably won't be doing that. Right, so we've got some options in our opening hand. And remember, because we are Lightning, we can make these slow powers fast. But, for example, this one destroys a town. We might want to destroy this town that gets built here this turn, but in the slow phase. So we've got no advantage in this space, of course, to use it in the fast phase, because there's nothing to destroy in the fast phase. But we could destroy this town in the fast phase and prevent the city build. Now, this is often can be a useful thing to prevent city builds because they're harder to deal with than towns. But, yeah, not an over-explained peasant. Remember that. Remember that. So when we're thinking about our growth option, I think it's until you've got a real grasp, until you've played a chunk or got a real feel for the game, you almost always want to be placing presence, right? That's how you get your more energy, more plays. So that's a kind of, so it's kind of this or this are our ideal options. So the double presence place, and you notice this is at 0 range, so that means it's going to make a sacred site somewhere, which is very powerful. We need sacred sites for this innate, our thundering destruction. And this is why this spirit is a little bit funky, because it's hard to have consistent strong turns for a few reasons. You only gain cards via your reclaim. And your reclaim is your weakest action because you're not placing presence. A lot of other spirits, they've got an action that gains them a card while still placing presence, while still kind of growing. But Lightning just forgot to do something like that, apparently. So that's kind of tricky. And you've got this amazing plays track. Look at that, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just you get up to 6 plays, but you just never have the cards. So if you are in a multi-spirit game with this, with Lightning, and you've got an opportunity to give anyone a card, give it to Lightning, because they will be able to appreciate and use that card. So getting this innate is tricky though. You need 3 fire and an air. Okay, so all of our start cards are good for that, but of course we only start with 4 cards, so we can't consistently get that unless we draft 2 more powers, which is 2 reclaimed, which are 2 turns without placing presence. You might say. There's a very standard kind of approach to this, though, which is to alternate strong turns and weak turns. So you have a kind of flip-flopping approach. So you'd have a turn where you play 1 card, or no cards even, and then you have a card where you play 3 cards. So in this case, you could go turn 1, shatter homesteads, destroy this town that is being built, but we'll do it in the slow phase, right? Because it won't exist in the fast phase. Just let this go. So I think that's a reasonable thing to do. Now you'll notice here we've got a sacred site up here. So we've actually got sacred site adjacency, in all of these top lands. So if you make a sacred site in one of these lands, then we can target anywhere on the board with our innate. So I think I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to go with such a funky spirit. So this time we're only playing one card. So I think I'm tempted to go top track, but it's not ideal. Because next turn, we could place this presence, get some energy together, and then play 3 plays. 3 cards even. Yeah, I'm going to do that. So yeah, we've got a sacred site now in here and here. So we can target anywhere we could ever possibly want to target. Okay, so the benefit of not playing anything this turn is it means we have a better turn next turn, right? But I'm going to go with just playing this. And I'm a little bit outside my comfort zone, honestly, because I just don't really play Lightning as a solo spirit very often, or even as a multiplayer spirit, because the fact that with this card here, with Lightning's Boon, the fact you can make slow powers fast complicates things. And that might be in a good way. I mean, it's certainly fun to make a big lumbering slow power fast, but it's a whole other complication. All right, so we're going to just go with Shatter Homesteads, and we're going to destroy this town that gets built in the slow phase. The nice thing is that because when this shifts across to the Ravage, there'll be a lone explorer in here, which won't be able to damage land. It will do A damage to a Dahan, but then the Dahan will clear and empty this land for us, which is lovely. We like that. Okay, so nothing in the fast phase. Not into it. We're just not doing it. We could destroy this town. I think that you could make an argument, and that's good. I'm not going to, though. I'm not going to over-explain it. It's not that kind of video. I'm sorry. But if you have an opinion, feel free to share it in the comments. You know, I like that. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, we've got a jungle explore. Okay, that's okay. One thing to think about with the explorers is that when you're on your starting board, you'll have a blight. Unless you're on thematic. Well, you don't go on thematic just yet. If you've got a land with blight, it's a bit more of a priority because this blight will basically a blight placement here is 2 blight, so it's a more useful thing to prevent. So we'll destroy this town in here. Oh, lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. Okay, so this turn upcoming, we've got this Coastal Ravager. This I've just let go. Okay, so I did actually make a video aimed at people that are struggling to win at difficulty 0 about just letting a land go. This is why I'm making this kind of video, because this is exactly the kind of land that I am proposing you just accept is going to blight. Why? Because to try and stop this, we need to gain a card. We need to gamble on gaining a card. Maybe play it, spend our entire turn, or we could actually get some useful stuff done in the other areas. It's not necessarily obvious at what point you want to just let a land go, but I think once you're potentially spending your entire turn to solve a problem that isn't going to make you lose, I think at that point you've got to ask yourself some serious questions. Not really, no serious questions here. Okay, so we're now looking at the idea of going with a big turn. We've got an energy income of 2, and we could use this to have a total of 5 energy. We can play all of these cards. We've also got another presence to place. Now, we actually don't really have anywhere that matters for this spirit at this moment, because none of our powers are at 0 range. So we've got targeting everywhere we like, but yeah, it really doesn't matter in base game, actually. Sneaky little tip for people that are thinking of picking up the Branch and Claw. Being in with Dahan is pretty good. So I'll just do that for the sake of that. They're actually stacking them up, so you've got three presence in a land that actually also can be kind of good. Because then if you do lose a presence, you've still got a sacred site. Okay, here we go. So we're playing everything, which gets us this first tier of this innate. So we can destroy a town. Now, there's no point in destroying a town in the fast phase. We just destroy this town. We'll gain a fear, but we don't gain another fear card. We also don't change anything, right? We're still getting a blight in this land. Even if we were to use Raging Storm and destroy this explorer, we've still got a blight. No point. So we'll wait till the slow phase for this to destroy one of these towns that gets built here. But we probably will use Raging Storm in the fast phase, because that 1 damage we use for another key principle, which is pretty much the main way to beat hard adversaries, is to prevent builds. We can actually use Raging Storm here to prevent a build. Now, it's very expensive, right? This is not ideal. But we can use this damage to destroy a single explorer, which is still valuable to us, because it's going to mean that there's no town built here. That means we don't have to worry about a Ravage next turn. You know how it is. So, given that there's a Dahan in here, and we could set up for a similar situation to the one we have down here. So this turn there's going to be a Ravage, the Dahan and the land. Dahan's going to get 1 damage and the land is going to take a damage, but that's not enough to blight and then the counter and clear. So we've got a choice of this land and this land to prevent the building. I'm going to prevent it in this land because we can still, you know, get that cheeky extra little bit of clearance in. It's cheeky. Oh. Interestingly, we could get a fear card now, actually, because we can use this to gain fear. Pushing up to 2 Dahan, a fear if you pushed any Dahan into a land with buildings. That's interesting. So here is an option. I don't think it's a good option, particularly. But what we could do is we could use Raging Storm in here, destroy this Explorer, use Thundering Destruction in the fast phase, destroy this town. Then there's just a city in there. We could also push 2 Dahan into there for a counterattack. Now, 1 would die, 1 would be injured. They'd counterattack only do 2 damage. This is why it's not good. But if there was another Dahan in here, that might be something to consider. Because clearing the only inland building is pretty good. Because then, we love preventing builds, but preventing explorers is even better. Often very tricky to achieve. But if you can do it, oof, wonderful. But we can't do it. We can't do it, I'm afraid. So yeah, let's not think about that. But it is definitely something to look at. And often with Spirit Island, the more time you spend on a position, these other ideas will kind of appear. There's no, you know, I guess especially if you're soloing, there's no one else around the table waiting for you. Just settle down, relax, take your time. So. Okay, so we've decided that we want to have a similar thing to this mountain in here, up here, so we will Raging Storm in here. And this Harbingers of Lightning, we can use it now to gain a fear now, but it's not actually... We need 4 fear in solo to get a fear card. There's no point getting that fear now, particularly. It doesn't change anything. Unless we also destroy one of these towns, but again, destroying this town doesn't really change anything either. So, we could use this to push in the slow phase. But the nice thing about waiting to the slow phase, and a good way to think about the slow phase, is you can use it as a chance to respond to this card, right? When you choose these cards at the start of time, you don't know what these are, but you do know something about them. Each stage, so the first stage has 1 of each terrain type. The second stage, with the 2s on, has 1 of each terrain type, and then a coastal lands card. Generally, when I was first playing this, coastlands was the one I dreaded. But, yeah, so you kind of, at this stage, I know that this is a sand or mountain explore. And stage 3, by the way, is 2 different ones. So we know that it's a sand or mountain explore next. So, sorry, sand or wetland explore next. So yeah, I'm going to wait till the slow phase with this. Lightning's Boom, we were just playing for these elements. So, I mean, we could play it on ourselves if you liked. Doesn't make any odds. Let's do it. And we are going to do this in the slow phase and this in the slow phase. This is what we're doing. So, we have the Ravage for the land we just let go. It might seem odd to be so thrilled to let the island blight. And it might be that this is a strategy that you do not need at difficulty 0. Possibly. But you're learning it anyway. Okay, so we got the wetland option. So we're now at the start of stage 2. So we are now basically, these stage 2 cards could be anything once more. Okay, so we got the wetland option. Now, remember, so this has a blighting from the start of the game. So this is a more high priority land for us to deal with, because if this blights, then we'll get a blight on there and then an additional blight in an adjacent land. And keeping the island healthy is good. We like keeping islands healthy. So, with Thundering Destruction in here to destroy this town, which helps us. We've got to think about our Harbingers of Lightning. We only get this fear if we push the Dahan in with a land with buildings. So, we've got 3 options for where we could push a couple of Dahan. The extra Dahan here are not going to do anything for us. And Dahan are they're handy. We don't have any defend cards. We don't start with any defend cards, but we might get some someday. Maybe one day we'll get a defend card. So actually think about pushing into this land here. This is our most built up land at this stage, and it is an interior land. So if we destroy all these interior lands, then there'll only be explorers on the coast, which is good. And it also means that we'll have Dahan able to reach in here potentially. But this is, yeah, I'm veering into over-explain. We don't need to explain all that. We don't need to explain all of that. Yeah, we need to destroy this so that we have so this gets cleared in the Ravage, which is just good news for us. Okay, so we are now back to the spirit phase, and we've got our growth pick. Here's a little nugget, right? So you've got no powers in hand. You don't necessarily want to reclaim. We probably do want to reclaim, but it's always worth checking. But why, you say? Why would you not want to reclaim? Because it's a chance to just go rocketing down these tracks. And I mean rocketing. With lightning, the reclaim's our only way of gaining power cards, though. So we're less inclined to want to delay it, unless we already have a handful of great cards. But it's still worth thinking about. It's still worth thinking about, I assure you. Because at the moment, we've just got 3 plays, right? We will never be able to get this next tier of the innate that destroys a city until we have 4 plays. In base. So there's all kinds of funky stuff. But right now, in base game, we need 4 plays minimum to achieve this. And so if I was to reclaim now, I won't have 4 plays this turn. But what I can do is reclaim now and have a low-key turn this turn. Just play 1 useful card, maybe the card we gain. And then next turn plan to destroy a city. But here's why it's kind of compelling. If I was to say do this double presence placement this turn, when I reclaimed, I could then maybe go up to 5 actions, and then maybe I could even do this, destroy a town and a city. So it is worth considering. And I know this is aimed at beginners, but this is often a good way of repowering up your spirit. Like the arc of a Spirit Island game typically is invaders start looking a bit scary, you start weaker, and then if you can place enough presence and gain enough power cards, you can then become way more powerful than the invaders. But if you're not placing presence at every opportunity, that might not happen. You might just lose. Okay. So this actually is a good turn for a quiet turn because we've got no Ravagers that are placing Blight and we've got town builds. We're not scared of town builds. And because we can make these slow, this shatter, we can make this slow, we can make our innate slow, this destroy here. We can actually destroy these when it's the turn. So not this turn, but next turn, where this has slid across and has become a Ravage. So we might plan a quiet turn. And I'm gonna but how quiet, peasant? How quiet? Given that we want to probably solve this town. Yeah, let's not go into the. I'm trying to get the right level of crunching here. So we've got the option of gaining a minor power or a major power. We only have 3 energy to play with this turn. It's going to be a quiet turn, but next time I'm almost certainly going to go with this option here to get us a chunk more energy. So if we gain a major power, we will have to forget one of our cards, and I'm not up for that. I'm not up for that because we've got such an amazing plays track, and if we have more cards, we have the possibility of getting these. So it's going to be a minor power for that reason. Let's look, see what we get. So minor power principles. I do actually have a video just all about picking powers, but you've got okay. The main things to consider generally are: how do the elements fit in with your spirit? That's one of the main considerations. How do the elements fit in with the spirit? Do they help me right now? Do they solve or kind of help me with a weakness that I have as a spirit? So this is actually a non-straightforward collection. This elemental boon is a fantastic card, especially if you're playing multi-spirit and you're using major powers a lot, because these 3 elements mean you can get those thresholds, which often make a big difference to the effectiveness. So this is the perfect elements. This is any 3 elements we want. So that means we can potentially use it with this to get this. If we just get the number of plays, given that all of our cards have the elements we need, we can potentially do this double building destroy, which is kind of interesting, right? It doesn't really do anything on its own, though. Yeah. That's really... We could have an incredibly low-key turn and go with... Except we don't have the plays. What I was thinking is, if we just gain this turn and then play all of our cards, including this, we could have the correct elements to play this and destroy 2 buildings. That's pretty cool, right? But it's extensive. This Raging Storm is very expensive. We'd need a total of 7 energy. We're going to have 3 energy. If we play nothing this turn, we'd then have a 5 energy. Yeah, we can't quite afford it. It's also possibly a red herring. Now, Nature's Resilience is a defend card. Defend cards are very, very, very useful because they enable you to use your Dahan as an offensive weapon. For example, in this land here that I pushed Dahan into, next time this lot are ravaging, and I defended here, these guys will actually counter and destroy stuff. I think this is a good call. Call to Bloodshed is also pretty good. And it has the fire element on it. You see, the trouble with this is it doesn't have the fire element, and we kind of need fire and air, but we need 1 more fire. So if we did gain Call to Bloodshed, it would still be in line with the elements we actually want. We'd still have the potential to unleash this kind of big attack. Or to just substitute this in for an expensive starting card if we are trying to play a lot of cards in one turn. For example, subbing in for Raging Storm, which is expensive. I mean, it's often good, right? But it's a bit grim to use a 3-cost card to destroy 1 Explorer just so you can destroy the town with your innate. So, yeah, interesting. It's an... I keep trying to put it behind my head. So, yeah. Not an obvious choice. I think the Elemental Boon... Yeah, this is actually this is an interesting one. If you have opinions on this, interested to see those as well in the old comments section. Okay, Encompassing Ward, probably not of interest. Defend 2 is actually quite significant, though. You'll notice that this is a kind of low-key but also very powerful card. Even got a picture of lightning on it there. If I place a presence in here next turn, I can actually use this to defend in both of these lands, which is really nice. And if we were able to push some Dahan in there, which we can with Harbingers of Lightning, we could actually have counterattacks. Ooh, that's pretty... I mean, this is a really interesting selection. That this doesn't have any of the elements we really want. It does have a water on, which we kind of want, if we ever do this tier of the innate. But it doesn't have the fire on. I like the fact that Encompassing Ward here, as long as we remember to place a presence in here, we'll defend both of these lands. That's pretty good. It's pretty decent. And then it might be useful kind of later on. Call to Bloodshed is a damage per Dahan. This is actually a non-straightforward choice, and I'm trying to link it back to principles. This is actually a really clear, like, split. Okay, here, of course, Elemental Boon, perfect elements, is the whatever elements you want them to be. This has good enough elements to still be kind of building towards useful innate, and it's good damage. It's an extra little bit of damage. See, what we could do is use Call in conjunction with Harbingers to push Dahan around and then smash with Call to Bloodshed. Yeah, what an interesting selection. Peasant's fallen into the tank. It's like an evenly, like, imagine a 4-way set of scales. They're all good. They are actually, I think, all good here. They are all pretty nice. I guess we kind of want the one that's going to do the most for us with the least effort, which is kind of Encompassing Ward, maybe. But this is another bit of damage. We've got real potential to clear a lot of the kind of inland lands with something like this. I'm going to go Call to Bloodshed, I think, but I think there's a really strong case for any of these. But this is a defend card. They're so good. Like, this very built-up land here, we just push in another Dahan, and they counteract and just clear this land. Though, if they are, of course, ravaging here, they would have built first, probably. But this is a complex game, right? if you are struggling with this game, that's there's a whole chunk going on here. Yeah, I like the ward. The interesting thing with the ward is that we could use harbingers. So we can only set up a counterattack in one of these lands. If we set up in here, that means we can maybe work on the project of clearing the interior. The thing is, to defend is not useful for for this potentially big problem. But this call to bloodshed gives us the opportunity to maybe hit this innate. What are we actually doing this turn? And the other thing is that these towns that are built, we can just destroy them, right? We've got Shatter Homesteads, we've got this level of our innate. So I guess we've kind of solved these issues anyway. I'm going to go Call to Bloodshed. So we're leaning into elements, but I'm not sure if there was a correct pick there. There was no clear favourite for me. So, given that we want to destroy a town that gets built, we could just do this next turn. Now, if we keep all of these cards, we don't have the energy. Oh, wait a second. We're going to have 6 energy next turn. But if we use this, we can only go to 4 plays, get this extra energy. So we could maybe go to 5 plays, but then we can't afford to play all of these. But it's close. So there's not much. We may as well play something this turn, is what I'm driving at. Now, Raging Storm is really expensive, so if we are going to just play a card, probably not Raging Storm. Call to Bloodshed we could use, or Harbingers we could actually use to kind of position some Dahan for a counterattack. In one of these 2 lands. We don't really care about that, do we? Or, Call to Bloodshed actually could be just, we could just gather some Dahan into here. There's so many options. Oh, God. Oh, God. And for clarification, I've played multiple hundred games of this. So, I think this might have just been the wrong pick, you know. Might have just been the wrong pick. Okay. Yeah, we're going to use Call to Bloodshed. And the nice thing is that it's a slow power, so we can see what the Explorer is. And we can respond to it and bring our Dahan into place. We might even, if it's, say, a Mountain Explorer, we might even get to destroy... Oh, no, they're not going to Explore in there. The Fear card has prevented this Explorer and this Explorer. I'm not going to complain, though. That's actually still kind of useful, because it just preventing an Explorer member, we like that. Well, I like that. And you could too. So our plan for these is to fast destroy these towns next turn with Shatter and our innate. What did we get? So we got the Jungle Explorer. Yeah, so in this case, we can actually destroy this Explorer in the slow phase. Don't underestimate those slow powers. That's some advice for you. So destroying this Explorer doesn't look like much, but it means that this land is just not a problem anymore. I think that's the thing to do. Yeah. We'll just do a damage. Low key, but useful. Right. So, this turn, we're going to fast destroy this town. It'd be nice to push some Dahan in with Harbingers just to clear out the Explorer, get an extra fear. So, if we play all of these, here's the thing, right? Possibly I've miscalculated. If we play all of these, we can destroy a city. We actually don't really want to destroy a city this turn. So we could... See, this land has no blight. This one does. So this is definitely the priority for preventing a blight placement, because remember the cascade. We could let this land go just so we can destroy a city instead of destroying a town. Cities are generally harder to destroy. So if you get the chance to destroy a city, it's often a worthwhile enterprise. If we play all of these, what else can we do? Raging Storm means we can remove this, we can destroy this Explorer, preventing another build. Why do we like having 2 empty lands into the build? Because no build means we don't have to worry about the Ravage either. gives us it gives us some time. Letting this, again, this is another one where it's like, do I let that land go? For the sake of powering up, doing more damage. Or another alternative is to use Harbingers of Lightning and have a dirty counter. So that would be the thing I explained, where you push in a couple of Dahan, one dies, one gets injured, and a blight goes down, but you just still destroy the town on the counterattack, which gets you your fear, clears the building. The reason the building thing's nice is because when we get to Terror level 2, we just win by having no buildings on the board. So the Explorer kicking around won't matter so much. So we could ignore this land and destroy one of these two cities, which could be nice. Or maybe we actually think about the turn after and don't try and destroy a city this turn. We don't need to destroy a city. We could play a slightly safer game, destroy these towns, not use Raging Storm, but just play these ones here. Destroy this town, destroy this town. We'll actually gain a fear card because this gets us an extra fear. And whenever we destroy a town, we'll get a fear. And this will get us a fear if we push in with buildings. So we could go with just these three. And then when we reclaim, maybe we go in for a double destroy. But we need to, of course, get to 5 actions before we reclaim. The double destroy could be in, say, this land. Clear that out. And at that point, there'll be no buildings in here or here. So if a Wetland Explorer comes up, they won't go in there. Which is, yeah, that's lovely. So to get to 5 actions for the reclaim, we actually need to do a double presence place. Because we're not playing Raging Storm, the pressure on our energy is lower. Let's see. If we double presence place and play these cards this turn, we'll have 2 energy. We'll have no energy left over. Yeah, we're not going to be able to afford Raging Storm, but we will be gaining a new card in the reclaim, which we might be able to sub in. But because we've got this imperfect elements card, that means we need to be pretty lucky with our draft. But that's so maybe we go with a so what am I talking about, the lucky with the draft? To get this, we need fire and air, right? And we've already got a card that has fire but no air. This one here. So we kind of, if we were to hit this, we'd need all of our other cards to have fire and air. So maybe actually we just go for the 4th play and the guaranteed city destroy. We've got cities we can destroy. Yeah, I think that's better. So we'll go with this option here and we will place a presence somewhere. And because we've got targeting everywhere, it doesn't really matter. We don't have any zero range things to do. So I think I'll just make a sacred site in here. Why not? This is not a... yeah, there's no real justification for this. Okay, so we play these 3 things. So we've got our Thundering Destruction. We're destroying a couple of towns. We're not going to play Raging Storm. We're not doing it. This particular flip-flopping, you do get it with other spirits, but I think Lightning is the most distinctly flip-floppy of all of them. Okay, so to get the extra fear from Harbingers, we need to push some Dahan in with buildings. Now, it's... let's go with the idea of clearing the inland. I don't like pushing my Dahan into the inland so much because we're decentralizing them, but we're probably going to push them back in here at some point soon anyway. So we'll push. Oh, we could actually push to 2, push in here as well and clear both. Let's do that. So when you push, you don't need to push to the same land, which can be secretly very powerful. Because in this situation, these Dahan are now going to clear an Explorer in this land and in this land in the Ravage. I don't generally favour spreading my Dahan out like this. But in base game, it's not too bad. Okay, so we've got a flare card. We've got a flare card. In each land, defend 1 per Dahan. Okay, well, that's a bonus. So there's the Ravage. The defend, we didn't need it. And we have a build in this jungle alone. Okay, and we have the Explore. It's a Sand Explorer. So we didn't prevent the Explore because there's still buildings in here. But we're getting close to the dream of clearing out all the inland buildings. Because then your Explorers target half the number of lands. Okay, so we are into the growth phase. We have a Ravage here that we do care about. The Blight going down here will destroy this presence. We care. We have no Ravage here, then we have a town build here and another town build here. So this is, if we could get our double innate, that would be great. But we need that 5th place. So let's but we could do that next turn because we've got the five cards, and then next turn we could place this presence from our play strike and get the 5th play. So we still like having more powers, so we're going to look at a minor power for that reason alone. Well, okay then, we've been offered some interesting things. We have crucially not been offered stuff with the elements that match our innate, so the fire, air kind of match up. We do have lots of air options. So because they don't have the fire, that's mildly inconvenient, let's say. Now, what to go with in this situation? A defend cards are pretty good, even defend 2, but this ability is actually very, very strong because you can potentially prevent 2 builds with this. This is one of my favorite cards in base. Rain of Blood is just a load of fear. This is actually a really strong card as well, especially for us. We've got lots of plays and not much energy. So these 0 cost cards are going to be wonderful. Why do we care about fear? Because if we can advance the terror level, we get easier win conditions. The fact it's got Air Rod means that we can basically make it fast as well, which means we get the fear card before the invaders do stuff rather than after. So this is strong. This defend, though, is kind of interesting because we can use it in this land, in this jungle down here, to defend 2 this turn. And it's not got the right elements we like, but it doesn't matter because we could have our big turn next turn, where we play all of these remaining cards. Let's just see, we need 7 energy to do that. We could play all of our remaining cards and get this tier of this innate because we've got the 5 fire, the 4 air, and the water. Let me just quickly sanity check that. Yeah, 5 fire, 4 air, and the water, which means we'll have a massive turn next turn where we can clear this land apart, well, even the explorer if we really want to, and we can destroy this town. So I actually quite like this because it's it's a useful card. It saves us a blight going down in here. We even might potentially be able to use it in future just to prevent multiple builds. Veil the Knight's Hunt is also pretty nice. We could use it in this land to prevent a build here. But I'd rather, let's preserve our Sacred Site. So I'm gonna go with Enchanting Apparition. Again, not an overexplain. But especially with our flip-flop business, this is kind of ideal. We could use Harbingers of Lightning and push a Dahan in there for a counterattack, but then we're going to be missing out on this next tier of the innate. When we get to that 5th action, we can play everything remaining, and so basically we kind of you could make that choice, and I wouldn't stop you. Okay, so we'll just defend in here. And we have the Jungle Ravage now, so that's defended. And we have the builds that we can deal with again in the fast phase. And we should be a joyful, a carnival of destruction. Well, hopefully. Okay, so slow phase, nah. Having a turn off. Okay, back to the growth phase. So, in order to afford all this, we actually don't need more energy, which is interesting. And although this is a low complexity spirit, nominally, I actually find this one of the trickier spirits to play in base. So if you find this a weird spirit to play, that's I'd expect that. I would say if you want to find a spirit to play that has a straightforward plan, River. River is by far the best spirit to start out with. Okay, so I think we definitely want to place one presence, but we could try and place another one. The thing is, our income is 2, and our big turn costs us 7, so I think we're going to try and gain a bit more presence here. The thing is, we've got this really good off-brand card that we could just use to prevent potentially 2 builds. So we kind of, that might mean we want more plays. But if you could destroy all this lot soon, that would be great too. So I'm going to go with having the energy. And yeah, this is not a straightforward spirit. I actually think a lot of the spirits that are considered more complex, things like green and ocean, and even bringer of dreams and nightmares, are actually easier to pilot than this particular fellow. That fellow, not really a fellow, you're a bird, aren't you? Okay, so we play everything. We play everything. Look at that, glorious. Absolutely everything. Oh, incidentally, I have not considered what I'm going to do with Call to Bloodshed. What am I going to do with Call to Bloodshed? We could just gather Dahan in for a counter. I mean, this is a powerful turn. Powerful turn. And here's an... And here's something cheeky. If we could have cleared this land, we could prevent both of these builds. But that's a rabbit hole. Don't go down that rabbit hole. Okay, let's lightning boon ourselves just to make sure we've got everything we want. And I like, so we've got the double destroy. So this is the obvious target, preventing a blight going down. But this is inland, which I also like. But there's going to be towns built in here and here, so doesn't matter too much. So I think we go with the original plan and clear this, prevent the blight going down. So you'll notice what a different strategy this might have been if I'd picked up that big defend card. We wouldn't have so easily got this innate, that 6 defend nature's resilience card, but we would have been able to push and use Dahan for counterattacks. Okay, and then we've also got this Ravage in here. Oh, wait a second. If we push some Dahan in here, I'm actually going to undo. If we push a couple of Dahan in here, we'll get an extra fear for Harbingers of Lightning, and they will clear the remaining Explorer in the Ravage. So I think that's a worthwhile thing to do. And these guys aren't really doing anything in this corner. Not really doing anything. And we'll keep them together, because we can then push from here into 2 different lands, potentially. Okay, that extra fear is... We like extra fear. Okay, so we'll do that. So this now going to get cleared in the Ravage. This is going to also get cleared in the Ravage. Got a new fear card. And now we just need there to be no buildings on the board. So I think probably our Raging Storm we're going to use just to prevent a town being built. Or, here's another idea. We could deliberately engineer a kind of dirty counter. So we could use Call in the fast phase because we're lightning and we've got loads of air and lightning's boon. We could drag a couple of Dahan in here and have a dirty Ravage. Why would you do that, peasant? Why would you do that? Well, it's funny you should ask. Because that would give us the opportunity to use Shatter in the slow phase and destroy one of these towns that gets built in the slow phase. And we could Raging Storm to prevent the other build. So we'd have fewer buildings on the board altogether. Basically, these wetland builds they wouldn't be here. This town would also not be here. We'd have one more blight on the island, and we'd lose a presence here. And so when we got to the end of the turn, we'd have a explorer and a couple more explorers on the board, or maybe 3 more explorers on the board. But there'll be no buildings here, here, or here. There'd just be buildings in these 2 lands, which is something we could finish in the fast phase by just doing this turn again. We'd use the Thundering in here and the Homesteads in here, and then we win. So let's try that. So you've got a safer route. Which doesn't involve adding extra blight to the island. And you've got a slightly more dangerous route. We're going dangerous. So we don't need this Dahan to be in here. So we'll just drag these 3 in. And I think a key concept people like to talk about is blights as a resource. So, you know, the iron and blighting is something you can do. Okay, so yeah, destroy this one. So we're preventing a building here. I'm going to allow the build and then destroy it in this land here. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of newer players will really get fixated on preventing every blight. And some spirits, that's possible. If you like that playstyle, try Earth or maybe Green. Okay, each player removes Explorer Town from land with 2 or fewer invaders. Okay, so we can keep the island tidy by removing this town here. But this town's getting removed anyway. But I think we should win in the next fast phase because we can just repeat this turn. So let's try and squeak through that. Let's keep the island a little bit tidier. Let's keep it a little bit tidier. So we get the Sand Ravage, the Dahan counterattack and clear. You can't really necessarily rely on fear cards. Like that, got a bit lucky. Oh, there's the town building there. Damn it. Damn it. I'm actually going to undo because I want to execute on this plan. Oh no, we're destroying that town. Damn it, peasant. Damn it. The trouble with this hat is that it does keep my head overheats a little bit and I'm just less wise. It's a problem. Problem I have. So yeah, the plan still works because we're doing this in the slow phase. It still works. Anyway, if you're still here, thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. And if you have feedback on making the video more useful for new players, I'd love to hear it, or ideas for videos. I've actually got quite a backlog of videos that I'm working on because I don't try and just make a video because I think the quality suffers. And yeah, it might be hard to believe that I care about the quality, but I do. I do care. Even though I might look like a ghost at the moment. But got my reasons for looking like a ghost. I mean, it's spooky month. That's something. Okay, so our plan works. So we can reclaim. And we can just do what we did last turn. Let's look at a minor power. We're still going to look at a minor power. We could go for a major here, but I don't think it's great to go for a major with this spirit in solo. Just don't think it's a good idea. So let's look at another batch of minor powers. Okay, big defend card. Lovely stuff. So the fire element, we've not been given any fire air, which is what we like as this spirit. So probably would pick a fire because then we can use it with entrancing apparitions to get the fire air we like. This is a very strong power for any spirit that can make a sacred site. The downside is the 0 range from a sacred site thing, but we can make a sacred site with this here, and defend 10 is wonderful. We can push in some Dahan and get the counter. So this is probably the best out of here. Gift of Living Energy is also great for us because we have sacred sites, so we'd get the extra energy. And we struggle with energy, but look at this great big honking plays track here. So yeah, I think either of these are pretty good without any big discussion. Call to Isolation is a low-key super card. Let's just grab that. Okay, and then now we will finish. So we do need the water element from Raging Storm. It's a bit tricksy, but this threshold does need the Raging Storm. So if you are looking for elements specifically, this is an awkward combo, but I think we're okay. We're fine. So we can go with either of these. Let's just use our new toy. All right, there we go. So we'll just finish it up now. We could boon ourselves, but it doesn't really matter. Just give ourselves some energy. And we'll destroy both of these buildings. So if you can work out the victory in the fast phase on the following turn, it's a good way to go, especially in really close encounters. Like a lot of the higher difficulty runs that I do on or off camera, it does come down to, can I win in the fast phase next turn? Not necessarily can I win the fast phase, like, can I win this turn? It's like, because you get to do stuff before the invaders act, before they build more buildings, or that kind of thing. That kind of thing that they do. So that's our last building, and that should be the win. Anyway, like the video if you like the video. And subscribe for more Spirit Iron content. I'm putting out quite a lot at the moment. I'm trying to put out more beginner content or new player content. Because this is a wonderful game. It's a wonderful game, but it's not necessarily the easiest one to pick up. Unless I'm quite masochistic with these kinds of games where it's kind of difficult. Right, we'll have this nice animation where these few explorers run away. So yeah, I like recently I've just been playing a load of solo games with one of the Jagged Earth spirits, Days, if you're wondering, and just losing over and over again to Russia 6, because that's how I like to spend my time, apparently. Anyway, ta-ta for now.